So in the first video, what I did is I went over the basic stringing from start to finish. And so now what I'm doing is I want to break it down into small segments of where to start and kind of go in a continuum. So the first thing, when I noticed actually when I was watching the video that I had just completed, I noticed that my machine was wobbly. And so I went ahead, first of all, took care of that. The base on this particular machine, the Biardo, has adjustment clamps so that you can level it based on the floor. And so that was important for me to do. So now the machine will not be wobbling back and forth. And so I would recommend whatever machine you're using, whatever floor you're using, wherever you're using it, keep it, try to get it as level as possible. Even use a level if you need to, because the next part is basically making sure that the turntable is not just going to slide, or is not just going to just keep going around and around and around. Now this will stop because I just spun it and it has a very good turntable. So it'll stop. But I also have, besides the brake, because I want to make sure the brake has been completely released, I also have a friction brake. And the friction brake allows me to kind of have a little bit of friction on the turntable, but yet it won't just keep spinning. So that's, you know, awesome for, like, you know, when you're stringing, and that way it'll kind of just stop after you rotate a little bit. If you really just want to have a free spinning, I can turn off that friction and then it'll go around. But it's not just going to keep spinning to one direction because the machine is pretty level. So you want to make sure you have a level machine. Then the next thing to get your machine ready to string, go ahead and put the brake on, is you want the clamps as smooth as possible. These aren't too bad. I cleaned them recently. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 70% alcohol, a little bit of that from my bottle, take a rag, and I'm going to first of all clean the glides so that there's no residue of any kind on there that, you know, builds up over time, dust, whatever. I do have a cover on my machine so that it doesn't get too much dust on it just from sitting. And then what I will do is I will clean it and get everything off of there, and I'll do that a few times. And so that already will get it to glide a little bit better. And then the second thing that I will do to get that working is I will use a wax stick. This is actually door ease, but what I'll do is I will put a little bit of this on like that, and then I will rub it down as well, just like that. And I'll do that, you know, I'll probably do that a couple times so that it's as smooth as I can get it. So now the clamp bases glide a little smoother. So that way when I'm stringing and I'm going back and forth, this will move and it won't jam up, because sometimes what will happen is you're limited because you're trying to move in certain positions and you're having trouble getting your base to move. So in this case now it slides a lot better. And then the next thing I'll do is I want to make sure that the clamps can easily move up and down on here. Right now this is a little rough, so what I'll do is I'll basically do the same thing. I'll take the rubbing alcohol on here, put a little bit on these bars, and try to get that as smooth as possible. Use a little wax as well. Rub that down. I'll do a little bit more, but just for the sake of the demo here, I just want to kind of show you how. And then that way, when I put the clamps back on here, it will move a little bit smoother. So it'll go up and down a little bit easier. So I'll probably do that a few times to really get them to work, and then I'll do it to the other side. And that way, before you're stringing your rackets, maybe it's a good habit to get in maybe once a month, or depending on how much you string, maybe if you have a couple days where you're just going to be stringing, maybe before those days, get your machine ready like this. You know, it only takes a few minutes, and that way it keeps your machine working efficiently, and that way you don't have any hang-ups when you're stringing. So adjust your base, get it level so the turntable's not going to just spin around and keep going to a certain place. Clamp bases, clean your clamps and the rails that the clamp bases slide on, and then keep your machine in an optimal state before you start stringing. So that would be my first tip in getting started. In the next video, we'll go ahead and start mounting the racket.